Students, we'll start with the growth model. You must have seen my slides, PPT slides on VLE. We did Harrod-Domer growth model. Now, the second growth model that we study is Solow's growth model, named after Robert Solow, who won Nobel Prize for his work. The growth model is basically used for growth accounting. Just get an idea why this growth model is important. To understand the importance of growth model, we have to understand how the growth has taken place, especially after the Second World War. And we find very interesting feature of the growth is that some countries have experienced growth miracles and some countries have growth debacles. And so these divergence in the growth rates across the countries, as well as we have seen the trend of convergence. The poor countries per capita income, the growth rates are expanding and they are converging towards the higher levels of income. This convergence, that why convergence take place or why divergence take place, is better understood using Solow's growth model. So that's the reason why we study Solow's growth model. Now, to begin with the Solow's growth model, let's start with the idea that what Solow's growth model is rooted in the Cobb-Douglas production function. And if you recall, we say that y is equal to a k alpha L1 minus alpha. This is the standard Cobb-Douglas production function. Now, Solow's growth model uses this Cobb-Douglas production function as a starting point. But important thing is that how this A, that is called total factor productivity or technological factor, which is talks about technological growth or knowledge, how A enters the model is important. So when we start growth model, Solow's growth model, we have to first look at where the A enters in the model. There are two ways in which the A can enter the model. One is A is multiplied by K. It is called Hicks neutral. So this is basically what you could term as Hicks neutral function. So because A is getting multiplied by K. Second way of looking at it is K alpha is into A L1 minus alpha. Now here A is multiplied by L. This is called Harrod neutral. We pick up Harrod neutral basically production function. The reason is that the countries that we are talking about, developing countries, are labor abundant economy. So the countries like India, China, and not case of Bhutan, because Bhutan cannot be termed as labor abundant country, but most of the underdeveloped countries or developing countries are labor abundant in the region. And consequently, the total factor productivity, or A, which you can also call as knowledge factor, is multiplied by A. So this is called Harrod neutral. So this is the growth model, or this is the production function that we'll be working with. This production function has important feature that you have to understand, is that it exhibits CRS. Now this term CRS may not be new to you. This is called constant returns to scale. So the production function exhibits constant returns to scale. The constant returns to scale, basically you can understand from the perspective that if you double capital and labor, if a country doubles the amount of labor and capital it has, output would also double. If you reduce capital and labor by half, Y would also reduce by half. So there's a proportionate relationship between change in the labor and capital and change in the output. And that basically called constant returns to scale. There's another name to it. This production function is linear homogeneous of degree 1. But that's a little complicated. Let's keep it constant returns to scale. Now when you look at that, it basically says that there are three things that are important in growth. One is the amount of labor endowment the country has, the amount of labor stock the country has, the amount of capital that the country holds, and the knowledge and technology that is embedded in A. So there are three major inputs in the growth model: L, K, and A. Rest of the inputs are very insignificant. So you basically can think of there's abundant raw materials, natural resources which are required for growth. That is not the problem. So the three important inputs that are required for growth is labor, capital, and the knowledge. this is Harrod neutral production function. I already told you that we are basically talking about a constant returns to scale. So when we think about constant returns to scale, we can multiply this equation by any constant. Let's say the constant is C. So we are going to multiply this equation by a constant called C, and let's define C as 1 upon AL. Let's define C as 1 upon AL. So what I am doing is that I am multiplying this equation by 1 upon CL. So, sorry, 1 upon AL. Y is equal to, Y divided by AL is equal to K alpha divided by AL, and AL divided by AL 1 minus alpha. Now this goes off. So we are basically, what we are saying is YAL is a function of K upon AL alpha. This is basically what we call intensive form of production function. This is termed as intensive form of production function. Now let's make the things even simpler, not in terms of the content, because model is very difficult, but when I say simple, we'll use different terminologies for that. Let's say small y represents y divided by AL. So instead of using capital Y divided by AL, we are saying small y is equal to y divided by AL, capital Y divided by AL, and small k is k divided by AL. So we are using two terminologies, small y and small k. The small y represents GDP per unit of effective labor. Now this is very important what we call this. We call this as unit of effective labor or effective labor. Labor multiplied by knowledge becomes effective labor. So the GDP per unit of effective labor is small y. Stock of capital per unit of effective labor becomes small k. Is that clear? Now we'll move to the next step. So I have written y is equal to y divided by AL is equal to I rewrite this equation as yfk alpha, or simply you can call it yfk. This yfk is the intensive form of production function. What is Fk? Fk is basically, that's what Fk represents y. So per unit of effective labor depends upon Fk. In this case, there are two important variables in this model, y and k. Both y and k are important for themselves, not only important for themselves, but are very important for explaining the entire growth elements. And this equation is key equation to basically start as a starting point. Y is equal to Fk. You can think of this way, this is y and this is k, the production function is this, and this is Fk. Now this particular production function, which is we call yfk, exhibits a very interesting characteristic or particular feature. So this production function is a feature which we call, it meets what is termed as inner conditions. So yfk, this means the production function has this shape, and when it has this shape, it basically characterizes a feature called inner conditions. So we'll look at the inner conditions, and these inner conditions helps to understand the shape of production function. The first inner condition, it says that if you hold capital to 0, Fk, that is, if you hold k that is 0, so when I write in the bracket 0, what I mean is K. So if you hold K 0, Y would be also 0. It means you can't produce goods and services unless you have some stock of capital. Stock of capital per unit of effective labor is important to produce output per unit of effective labor. Second in our condition, F0, basically if you say F, in this case, if F is limit of F is equal to 0, then K would be equal to infinity. So as you raise capital stock to 0, the marginal physical productivity of capital would rise towards infinity. So F dash K we can call it. F dash limit to 0, the stock of capital, when you hold the stock of capital equal to 0, MPPK would be close to infinity. Third feature, if you limit the stock of capital to infinity, then this would be equal to 0. As this goes to infinity, as capital stock increases to infinity, MPPK goes towards 0. And these are three important conditions, which can be also written as Fk is equal to 0 and F dash K, that is the second order of differentiation, is less than 0. So it means the first differentiation says that as capital, when you start with the capital is equal to 0, it means the MPPK is equal to 0, and when you increase the amount of capital, MPPK tends to decline. So this is less than 0. So this is important condition, and all these conditions together are termed as Inada conditions. And Inada condition is important because it gives this shape to the production function. This shape is important. Why it is important? We'll explore it right now. So remember the important things about Inada condition. F0 is equal to 0. That means to produce, if you have stock of capital which is equal to 0, your output would also be equal to 0. If we raise the stock of capital and limit the stock of capital to 0, MPPK would go towards infinity, and if limit the stock of capital towards infinity, it means capital stock increases towards infinity and MPPK would go towards 0. So it means they go in opposite direction. Higher the stock of capital, lower the marginal physical productivity of capital. Lower the stock of capital, higher marginal physical productivity of capital. This gives this shape, and this is what we call Inada conditions. Now, we have to start building the model, because this model goes over the period of time. So it's not constant, rather it's scaled up over the period of time. So when we say the model is scaled up over the period of time, we are talking about all these three variables, K, L and Y, increase over the period of time. So they are not constant, they keep on increasing over the period of time. So how the K, L and A increase over the period of time is important to us. So the model is taken over the period of time. So when the model is taken over the period of time, we are talking about the three important elements, A, K and L, they grow over the period of time. Of these two, of the three, A and L, they grow exponentially. So how the exponential growth can be defined? Let's say labor stock in a particular period of time T would grow exponentially, and exponential growth can be defined as LT, that is labor stock at a particular point of time T, would be equal to labor stock in the previous period, that is called 0. E is the natural exponential, and N is the rate of population growth. N is rate of population growth, because labor stock increases because population grows. T is the period of time, how many years we are talking about. So So T is the period of time. Similarly, A grows like this. AT, that is A knowledge at a particular period of time T would be exponentially growing at a rate of called G. G is the rate of growth of knowledge. G is the rate of growth of knowledge. So labor grows at a rate of N, that is L, grows at a rate of N, A grows at a rate of G. Labor and knowledge grows exponentially, but not the case of capital. So how the capital grows? Now we'll come to the growth of capital. Three elements in the model, K, A and L. We have seen how L grows and how A grows. Now we'll see how K grows over the period of time. To understand how K grows, we have to start with the basic identity in economics. It says that income is either consumed or saved. What we can do with our income? Either we consume or we save. And what we save is invested. So saving is identically equal to investment. K can be termed as stock of capital. How the capital stock changes over the period of time. So the change in the stock of capital would depend upon three things. Rate of savings. A country which saves more, invests more. A country which saves less, invests less. This S is the called marginal propensity to save. So if I say MPS is 0.5, what does it mean? If I say MPS is 0.5, country saves 50% of its income. If MPS is 0.2, the country saves 20% of its income. So lower the MPS, lower would be the saving. Higher the MPS, higher would be the saving. So MPS is a fraction of income that we save. Now this basically is FK. FK is Y. Remember I said Y is equal to FK. So what is FK? Is Y. So you can also, we are multiplying S with Y, but since we are using FK for Y, I am putting its SFK. This basically says, this is nothing but change in the stock of capital. Increase in capital, which we call investment. So this is investment. But capital stock has a feature. It depreciates over the period of time. And the depreciation can be captured like this. So DKT, 1 minus DKT. So I'll just write 1 minus DKT. This is the amount of capital stock which depreciates. So investment increases the stock of capital, depreciation reduces the stock of capital. If SFK is greater than 1 minus DKT, delta DKT, it means investment, the stock of capital would be increasing. K dot would be positive. But if SFK is less than 1 minus DKT, K stock would be negative. When I put dot over it, now this is new terminology that we are using. K dot, that means change in the stock of capital. Change in K is represented by K dot. Is that clear? So this, you have to understand K dot. K dot means the change in the stock of capital. These are terminologies. So when I say, when SFK is more than the depreciation, capital stock, change in the capital stock would be positive. It means capital stock would be increasing. SFK is less than depreciation, capital stock would be declining. And this is very important condition of Solow's growth model, which we says SFK should be, if SFK is equal to 1 minus DKT, then capital stock would remain unchanged. So K dot would be equal to 0. This is what we call how the capital stock changes over the period of time. It depends on two things, SFK and depreciation. SFK is investment, gross investment, and this is depreciation gives us net investment. Now, very important thing is that how capital stock grows over the period of time. We have to take into account that the capital stock that grows over the period of time is also affected by increase in the AL. If effective labor is increasing, the capital stock per unit of effective labor to remain constant should also increase by the rate at which AL is growing. And that is captured by SFK minus M plus G plus D KT. So the change in the capital stock would depend on two things now. M is the rate of growth of labor, G rate of growth of knowledge, and D is the rate of depreciation. Now these are two elements in the Solow's growth model. This is called actual rate of investment. SFK is actual rate of investment. And this is what we call N plus G plus D plus KT is called required rate of investment. So SFK is actual rate of investment, the rate at which investment grows in the country, and this is the rate of investment which is required to hold K dot equal to 0. So if economies investment take place at this rate, which we call required rate of investment, this is required to keep capital stock holding constant. When K does not grow, capital stock remains constant. So this is important condition. Now if they two are same, K stock would remain constant. If SFK is more than this, capital stock would increase. If SFK is less than this, capital stock would decline. Let me put a diagram to look at this. Here we measure K, that is stock of capital. Here we measure K dot, that is how stock of capital changes over the period of time. Now, this is a line which we call N plus G plus D times KT. This line is constant because all these N plus G plus D are different coefficient whose value is fixed. And one important assumption that we make, the sum of N plus G plus D should be positive. N plus G plus D should be greater than 0. One value can be negative, but their sum should be greater than 0. So it means a positive N plus G plus D should be positive constant. And they remain constant, that is the reason why this N plus G plus D time KT is a 45-degree line. And that shows at all level of capitals, the change in stock of capital, the N plus G plus D KT actually grows at the same rate. Then this is what we call SFK. Now this is an important aspect of Solow's growth model. Now this is the point. At this point, SFK and N plus G plus D times KT are same. It means at this point, the capital stock would stop growing. And this we call K asterisk. It's called steady state capital stock. It's termed as steady state capital stock. In Solow's growth model, K asterisk is important because the economy has a natural tendency to converge. If capital stock is more than K asterisk, capital stock would decline. If capital stock is less than K asterisk, capital stock would increase. So finally in the long run, economy would come back to K asterisk. That is the reason it's called steady state capital stock. Why so? Look at this. If capital stock, actual capital stock is lower than K asterisk, let's say KT, what do you find here? The actual investment, that is SFK, is more than required investment. If actual investment is more than required investment, capital stock would increase. K dot would be positive, capital stock would start increasing. But if you have capital stock which is more than K asterisk, suppose this, then what do you notice? N plus G plus D is more than SFK. SFK is here and N plus G plus D is here. What does it mean? The required rate of investment is more than actual rate of investment. And when you need to grow, you need to invest more to keep your capital stock constant, but we are investing less than this. Result would be capital stock would start falling down. So if we are here, the capital stock would fall. So we have a natural tendency, we have seen a natural tendency for K to converge towards K asterisk. And this is called convergence in Solow's growth model. So finally what we are saying in Solow's growth model, we are looking for a situation where rate of investment equals, actual rate of investment equals required rate of investment. We'll keep this for today. I think it would be difficult to digest beyond this in a particular go, and we'll continue with the discussion in the next video.